What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in and checking out this video. As you can kind of tell from the title of the video, we're going to cover a couple topics today. Today's video is going to be a hybrid of two topics in particular, one of them being Rally and Garrison specific scenario and specific combat fundamentals. There's a few fundamentals within the way that combat works and how damage is dealt in Rally and Garrison scenarios, and some of the fundamentals that we will talk about I don't really see covered anywhere else, and so I see a lot of confusion throughout the community, especially when I get asked why certain reports look the way that they do, how decisions should be made about around which hones should be used for armaments and such, and those types of things. So I think that the fundamentals that we'll cover today are very important in helping you select which heroes you're going to use in Garrison and Rally scenarios, which hones you're going to use, really how to time your rallies, if rallying into a target, and those types of things. So we'll cover all that today. That will bridge into the second form of topic of this video, which is going to actually be the hones specifically for Garrison and Rally armament sets, and why those hones are kind of selected. These two topics should kind of meld together, and with the fundamentals, you'll have a better understanding of why I'm telling you to pick the hones that I am. I could sit here all day long and say, oh, here's the best hones for Garrison, here's the best hones for Rallying. But to me, as somebody that wants to try to help educate you, if at the end of the video you don't understand why I'm telling you, which hones to use and why certain ones are maybe better than others, then I've kind of failed on my part as the educator, because the whole goal of it should be that I can, help you find the best hones to be able to pick for Rally and Garrison sets. And then with that information and knowing why those are the best ones, you should then be able to go off and educate somebody else if they have the same question. So again, we're going to cover both of the topics. We're going to cover the what's, the whys, and kind of everything in between. And then, that'll kind of cover the topic of this video. Quickly to address it as well, I know that this question's kind of come up in quite a few of my comments, and I've received a ton of messages in game about it. Yes, I did kind of disappear from the YouTube scene for about a month and a half, maybe even. Not too sure how long it's been already. Myself and quite a few of our Alliance members that I've played with now for almost 2 years, we were just getting really burnt out on G1, G2, G2, G3 matchups, every single matchup. And, most of them aren't crazy spenders. I certainly haven't spent nearly as much as, a lot of the whales and stuff like that in the game, the true whales that are running around with, 6mm armament sets on all their sets and max garages and those types of things. And so it was really a quick burnout or quickly getting burnt out in the upper G brackets, doing it every week and just really fighting some tough matchups. It is very fun. It is fun to kind of fight that uphill battle in that David versus Goliath kind of scene. And especially when you can pull off some upset wins as like the underdogs and stuff. But doing that every week or every other week in events, especially with the consistency that events are happening, was really just burning out. So had to take some time to kind of step away. And then within our alliance, we kind of split up into 3 sub-alliances or sister alliances within our region for better matchmaking. And we did that. We got it finalized and in place for Island Raid, and I think we ended up everywhere between like G28 to like like 86 or something like that. So I believe everybody had a much more enjoyable time. It's been a lot more fun, and we're kind of getting back to what we're kind of used to, which is mostly playing around strategy and playing around each other as a group, rather than just playing around, a few whales that we have on the team, and, that being kind of like the primary objective. So, yeah, it's been fun. So, just kind of rekindling the fun and the enjoyment in the game and the community base that we had, and really just kind of like the vibe and the feeling that comes with that. And, just getting back to enjoying things. So you can definitely expect for me to get back into making videos now that all the hard work and getting all that split up and taken care of is all kind of done and in place. And a huge shout out to a few people in our alliance, like Ballsy, Kev, and some of the other guys for, taking the time that they did to organize the restructuring of the alliances and stuff. So, yeah, hopefully it's onward to bigger and better things. And hope you guys have all, been having a good summer. Having some good times in your own lives and stuff like that during this time as well, and appreciate you guys supporting me while I was kind of away. But yeah, with that in mind, let's go ahead and dive directly into this. So what we are looking at here, let me kind of explain this graphic. This is going to kind of come from the scenario where you are defending a tower as Garrison. Now, there are 3 different damage types that are being essentially inflicted on a combat log report that you can see when getting into a Garrison and Rally type of scenario. you have basic, counter, and skill damage essentially happening. What the numbers are here is that in this scenario, you're defending a garrison against a triple rally. So you have 3 different rallies hitting you. You might run into this in like Archipelago Raid, maybe even Genesis War, just really depending on what the scenario is. But this is a very common scenario to get into. The numbers, what they represent, isn't just 1, 2, and 3 rallies. It's actually going to be the order in which the rallies are hitting you. So 1 being your primary target, 2 and 3 being your secondary targets, I call them. Now, what I mean by primary target is, if we take a look at this video here, I've slowed it way down. I'm on Garrison, taking a double rally at this point. And if I let this play, it's in slow motion here, you'll see that when my rage is done, and I fire off my rage skill, the cone of Thunder's rage skill is pointed towards this rally, which means that this rally right here is my primary target, likely the first rally that has hit me, as that will usually be your primary target when you get triple rallied, the first rally that hits you. And so what that means is that all of my skill damage, unless I'm dealing AoE skill damage, is pointed directly at them. This is my primary target. This is who Thunder is focused on, which would be Sven and Jin. And then back here, this Julia rally is essentially one of these secondary rallies. So in this graphic, either the second or the third. So that's kind of just fill in essentially like what we're looking at here in the graphic. So now what we're going to dive into is how these damage types are measured and who is dealing what kind of damage to what. So we'll start off with basic attack damage. And this kind of might come as a shocker to some people, unless this is the topic that you've looked into or kind of understand. Again, the primary reason why you're going to want to know this is not just for the hones themselves, but I'll show you specific examples of heroes. And sometimes I'm seeing people utilize heroes that think that they're doing an insane amount of damage when they're actually not, because of something as simple as which rally hit first. Are you a primary target or are you a secondary target? So we'll look at the primary target first. So as a garrison against the primary target, I am dealing basic attack damage. So I'm going to color code these, right? So red being basic attack damage. I'm dealing basic attack damage to the first rally that hits me. They are also dealing basic attack damage back to me. On top of that, I have to click off of here. Counter damage is also being dealt both ways. This isn't going to be the cleanest, by the way. I just have to try to make all these fit. But yeah, so counter damage is being dealt both ways. And then also skill damage. So unless I have AoE skill damage to deal with the other guys, that is also a possibility. But all 3 damage types are being dealt to your primary target, essentially, as garrison. Okay, now let's take a look at number 2 here for our secondary target. This is going to be kind of where, for some people, your eyes might open up. You might not realize maybe this is the case, but you are actually dealing basic attack damage this way. And then my way, coming back to you, I am dealing counter damage. And then in your case, you are also dealing skill damage this way, not needing to be an AoE dependent hero. Now in this specific scenario, we are not an AoE skill damage garrison defender. So that might be someone like Louis, that might be someone like Jacob. We are not dealing AoE skill damage. So we are only, like, let's just say that this is Thunder or Rigoro and Riven, for example. So in a Rigoro Riven scenario, we are dealing skill damage with Riven towards our primary target, but there's no skill damage going this way. They're dealing basic attack damage and skill damage to us, and we are only dealing counter damage to them. Same thing this direction. We are dealing counter damage to these guys. They are dealing basic attack damage and skill damage to us. So this right here is what a normal triple rally report looks like at the end of the actual report itself, or how damage is being dealt throughout the whole report or throughout the whole time that you're being triple rallied. You're dealing basic, counter, and skill damage to your primary target. They are dealing all 3 forms of damage back as well. You are dealing counter damage to your secondary or your second and third rally that are hitting you. However, they are dealing basic and skill damage to you. Now, what is one scenario like this that I have seen from a rally perspective that individuals may be screwing up? So one of those is when I see individuals using... That was really loud. I apologize. When I see individuals using Eddie, for rally leaders. So if you're a rally leader rallying into a tower and you have an armament set, an armament rally set, I see a lot of individuals maybe use Eddie and Jin, Miyamoto and Eddie, Eddie and Robert, or Adut and Eddie. Basically anybody with Eddie as a rally leader. I see a lot of people use Eddie on infantry rallies to rally into a tower. The problem is that they think that they are dealing this 44% increase in counter damage to the garrison itself, along with here when your remaining squad size is less than 30% increased counter damage. They see that as, oh, that's 60% increased counter damage. That's a lot of damage. I'm going to deal a lot of damage to the tower itself. Problem is as a second or third rally that hits a tower, you can see you're not ever actually dealing counter damage to the tower. You're just dealing basic attack damage, and they're actually dealing counter damage back to you. Let's see. I don't think I have any reports from this. Yeah, I don't think I actually have any reports from this Genesis War, unfortunately. Actually, but what we can do here is I might be able to pull up. Let's see. I might be able to pull up one of these reports here from our last Archipelago raid and be able to go into the combat log. So you can see that we took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rallies total on this report. And you can see here, like on some of these, there are multiple rallies, the SSI, 2 Hot, and Chev rallies all happening at the same time, like at this point in time right here. So we'll just go down to the 2 Hot one. And we'll go down to the combat log. Yeah, see, I can't even click on it. Otherwise, I would show you guys. But basically, what that looks like, if I was actually able to pull it up, is that this graphic right here, the first primary target would be this SSI rally, and then the 2 Hot and Chev rallies would be both of these secondary targets. So I would be dealing all 3 forms of damage here to this one. I would only be dealing counter damage to this one. And then I would also only be dealing counter damage to this one. That's usually also why you'll see yourself do a lot of damage to like your primary targets, but then your secondary ones you might not have the best reports on or the best trades. In this case here, it looks like the SSI one kind of fell off, so then I ended up dealing quite a bit of basic and skill damage as well to this rally, which is why it turned out pretty good. But this rally here with the Chev one, for about half of the time that the rally was going on, I was primarily hitting 2 other targets. So that's why this one didn't come out as good as it could have been. But again, in this case or scenario, that if you were to use an Eddie as a rally leader into a tower, what you would want to make sure has happened, because you can utilize that counter damage to its fullest and deal a lot of counter damage to the tower itself, you would just want to make sure that you're lining it up to where if you're rallying with 2 other alliances into a tower, make sure that you coordinate that your rally is going to be the first rally that hits the tower. So then you are taking full utilization of that counter damage to the tower itself, as that is the only time and scenario that you're actually dealing counter damage to the tower. You would need the tower to be focusing you as a primary target, hitting you with their basic attacks, which in turn triggers a counter attack. So that's kind of how you would utilize that. Now going into the second topic itself, this is going to be the hones that you would essentially look for a rally or a garrison set. You'll see that a lot of them are very similar, obviously with kind of a swap of rally or garrison specific. And then here the difference is that in rallies, your best hones basically is going to be more on the lethality attack side of things, where on garrison that is more prioritized as block or defense, since usually, and again, this is completely up to you and what kind of style you play as a rally. Like you may be trying to run more of a sustained rally, in which case maybe the block and defense are higher priority to you, or maybe on garrison your ultimate goal is to just deal as much damage as possible, as quick as possible, and you're not really too worried about how much damage you take. Maybe in that case your lethality and attack move up to more of a priority, and you can move block and defense down to maybe a secondary priority. But again, those are kind of more unique scenarios. But looking at this here, squad damage and squad damage reduction, these are found on devices only. So your 2 centerpieces basically. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. So that's going to be these 2 here. These are the ones that will allow for you to roll squad damage or squad damage reduction, and the only ones that will allow for you to do so. Those hones are not found on any other. Going into a little bit more of a topic, you can go here into your your armaments themselves, click manage, click this little hone attributes hyperlink here, and then you can actually scroll down and you'll see device exclusive, squad damage, and squad damage reduction. This is the range in which that your hones can roll. So on the low end all the way up to the high end being the red values, or a perfect roll. One of the other things too that I actually did, I don't know why I didn't notice this for a while. Maybe it was a newer implementation when it came out or when I did notice it. But if you do have one of the superb armaments that has the border on it, which you can see here versus the normal ones that don't, you can actually click on manage, hone attributes, and then up here at the top you can see what the rare 5th hone slot is. So when you have a superb armament itself, let me go ahead and go to like one of these here. You can see unlocks at 5 stars for the 5th hone slot. Rare hone attributes may appear in the 5th slot when honing. And what that is again, you can go to manage. If you have one of these, go to hone attributes, and be able to see what that rare 5th slot hone is that you could potentially roll for in that 5th slot that's exclusive to the 5th slot and exclusive to superb armaments. One thing to also note in mind while we're kind of on the topic is that the rare 5th slot hone that you can unlock is the same across the board for all armament types. So the superb ranged weapon rare 5th slot skill, basically the increase all damage by 9% within 3 seconds after every skill release, is the same rare 5th slot hone that you would get on a weapon for infantry. So all superb weapons for all troop types, the rare 5th hone slot is the same. All chest pieces, same thing, etc., etc. It is different and unique for each device 5th slot though, however. So like on the war drone, increases damage dealt by 8% when remaining troops fall below 50%, as opposed to the camo cloak where when healing is received, gains 60 additional rage. Effect can be triggered once in 6 seconds. So those ones have unique ones. Just take a look at a couple more, i.e. Augmenter increases squad attack by 18% when squad consists of the same troop type. And then EM turret, this should be the, basic attacks have a 20% chance to deal additional damage to the current target. Now again, keep in mind, basic attack damage, if you got this device and you're getting hit in a rally scenario as a garrison, you're only going to deal this device damage back to your primary target. You're not actually dealing basic damage to either secondary target. So this rare 5th hone slot right here, if you had this on garrison, would only work in this case. So that's usually why I recommend EM turrets for rally players and not so much garrison players. But yeah, taking a look again at the hones themselves. So squad damage reduction is just a very good high priority one to roll on in both scenarios. They actually net you the highest amount of power on your devices in terms of a hone themselves, more so than any of the other ones. So a red squad damage reduction will give you much higher might for your overall might and your device might itself than, say, a red garrison attack or one of these. So like this yellow 3.8 squad damage, for example, I have attempted to re-roll that and I've gotten plenty of red hones to replace it. However, because it's not a red squad damage or red squad damage reduction, a perfect roll garrison attack or infantry block and one of those other ones actually nets me less power than this red squad damage would. So that is one thing to bear in mind, but also why it is kind of at the top of our priority list. Taking a look at rallies, rally basic attack damage is in the red. And again, let's go back to our graphic here. That is because you are dealing basic attack damage in all scenarios, whether you're the primary target or secondary target. You are dealing that is your primary form of damage. So that white damage number that pops up throughout the time of the fighting itself. So this number here that is popping up, that is going to be basic attack damage for a rally, and then counter damage here for secondary targets, or basic and counter damage for primary targets. And again, if you're the primary target, like in this case here, this Sven rally, they are dealing basic and counter damage to me. I am dealing basic and counter damage to them. This Julia rally, they are dealing basic attack damage to me, and I'm dealing counter damage to them only. So that is why rally basic attack damage is huge for rallies, is because you are always dealing basic attack damage to the garrison whenever you are, no matter whether you are a primary target or a secondary target, whether you hit first, second, or third in a rally scenario, you're always dealing basic attack damage. So that is why it is a main priority. Rally skill damage is always huge as well. Skill damage in general will usually and generally be your primary form of damage and net you the most amount of troops that you are killing in the tower, more so than your basic or counter attack damage. So it is a huge skill up, or I'm sorry, a huge priority up here. Rally attack is also up there because again, it's more damage, and rally specific hones themselves. If you guys take a look here, go to manage and hone attributes, you'll see that troop specific attacks, so infantry, rider, and range, all end at 5% for their max value. However, if you go down to rally attack or garrison attack, which, am I blind? I might be blind. Anyways, rally attack ends up at 6% as well. That is the highest value that that you can get. So that the value for that is higher. Oh, there it is. Garrison squad attack. It threw me off. So rally attack and garrison squad attack have a 6% value or 1% higher value, 20% higher value on the top end than a troop specific one. And if you look at squad, it's actually 4.5% is the max hone. So that looks like here, squad attack, a red roll is 4.5%. Infantry squad attack ends at 5%. And then garrison attack ends at 6%. So you can kind of see where if you had more garrison attack specific hones, it doesn't seem like much having a 1.5% difference between 6% here and 4.5% here. But you can see, you know, 2 of these nets me 9%, but if I had 2 of these, it net me 12%. So it can add up very, very quickly. So that is why if you're somebody that primarily is your primary garrison or primary alliance rally leader or primary garrison for the alliance, rally attack and garrison attack or rally and garrison specific hones are very, very, very huge and can net you a lot of damage. Also, troop specific squad lethality and troop specific or squad attack, since really again your primary objective as a rally is to break that garrison and break that garrison as quick as possible and deal as much damage as possible as quick as you can. So we are going for high damage here. Good hones or secondary hones to have would be troop specific or troop specific block or defense. That is to just sustain your rally. This helps you if you are getting swarmed or getting counter rallied. However, there are many scenarios where maybe your alliance has field control or maybe your legion has field control, and so it may not be as nearly as efficient or effective or necessary. And also on top of that, you may be a secondary target, so you may not even be getting skill damage or basic attack damage being dealt to you. So defense is far less important because you are much more in a lane at that point of just dealing high damage without taking much damage at all. So again, not necessarily the best to use, but very, very viable to still have, as you will take better trades per se. And then rally counterattack damage is a decent hone to be able to have. Again, the reason why that's not top priority is because unless you are the primary rally, you are not actually dealing counterattack damage to the tower itself. So unless you are intending on being the primary rally every single time, in this case, maybe you are an infantry rally main who's going to be using Eddie all the time. So you will always coordinate with your legion members, your faction members, whoever it may be, to make sure that your rally is the first rally that is set, and first rally being basically hitting the tower, so they are targeting you, in which case, yes, rally counter damage could be good, but that would essentially be one of the only scenarios. Or if you are opting for a sustained rally where you are going high defense in your rally, you just want the rally to live as long as possible. Maybe you're running an AoE rally, so like a Bard and a Louis, and you just want that rally to be up as long as possible, dealing AoE damage, and you want the rally to get swarmed, you want the rally to take a counter rally and those types of things, then at that point, rally counter damage could be good, but again, not ideal or not, best used in all scenarios. In Garrison, we have the exact same stuff. However, we kind of flip the script a little bit. Again, block and defense is going to be your primary objective here. Reason being, again, you are not dealing much damage to your secondary targets, but you are taking a lot of damage from all three of them. So your ability to absorb damage, negate damage, and just really reduce the overall number of damage that is being dealt to you is going to be very important to have. So high block, high defense is going to be very good to utilize and to be able to make sure that you are taking as minimal damage as possible. That way you can, regain control, whether it be through field control, through counter rallies, or whatever it may be. But the longer that you can survive in that tower by taking as little damage as possible, the better it is. Because to me, the longer that you can extend out that fight, the more opportunities you're going to have to be able to create a counterplay, basically. So that is why block and defense has gone from a good hone to a best hone in Garrison. And then here, the other thing that is flipped is that Garrison counter damage is up in the priority, where basic attack damage for rallies is up at the top, and basic attack damage is down here at the bottom. It's just going to be vice versa. Flip the script, basically, of what the rally is. You are consistently dealing counter damage to all three, and that is your primary form of damage to secondary targets, but you are not dealing basic attack damage to either one of them, and so it is really not ideal. You're only dealing basic attack damage to your primary target. This might be useful on a Rider Garrison set where you are using Chasey, because Chasey uses on her skills. Let me back out of here real quick. Chasey uses on her skills the increase of basic attack damage by a shit ton, let's be honest. 290 there, an additional 35% there, and there's a few other spots basically where she does get some. So in that case, if you are just wanting to absolutely melt your primary target and your primary rally that is hitting you, then yes, you can go Garrison basic attack damage on a Rider armament set. Or on a leader armament set where you were intending on using Chasey behind, say, Victor. That is perfectly fine. I've seen it done. I've seen it where Yes Please was actually using that because he's a Rider main, but a Rider rally main, but his armament set still worked perfectly fine on Garrison. That Garrison absolutely melts the primary target. However, the minute that you take two or three other rallies and you're in a multi-rally scenario, that Garrison gets absolutely destroyed and melted. It's not even close. But in a one-on-one scenario, it can do pretty well. I think that we pretty much have covered both topics. I definitely don't want to take up much more of your time. This is going to be almost a 30-minute video, so I'll try to put in some timestamps on the video itself to kind of help you navigate this video to see all points. Again, I apologize for the longevity of this video itself. However, there are quite a few topics and quite a few essentially factors to take into place when you are rallying or Garrison, specifically around how damage is dealt, that again I don't think many other YouTubers or other people in the community are talking about. And so there's a lot of confusion as to which heroes you should use, what hones you should use, and then really again the why on that. So this video is very in-depth on that, covers a lot of those topics and those whys, and so please feel free to go back in the video, go back to the different points to make sure that you fully understand that. Any questions, concerns, or just like really scenarios built around this that you may have, please leave those in a comment down below and I'll be happy to answer those or put it in a future video if necessary. Again, lengthy video, but it is very vital and important that there are so many different factors when it comes to rallying and Garrison that unless you are truly utilizing it properly and using the right heroes in the right scenarios, hitting the tower in the right order and stuff, you may be taking trades and you may be taking damage or not dealing as much damage as maybe you thought you would, or taking an unnecessary amount of damage, those types of things. So it is a very important topic to understand. So again, I thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel as you guys consistently do. Again, any questions, concerns, and stuff like that, please leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer those or put it in another video. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video so it can be shared out. Please feel free to get this video out to your alliance members, friends, whoever it may be, because a community in a game where we all kind of understand the game better and are playing it in a better way and optimized makes it more fun, challenging, and enjoyable for everybody. So I definitely want everybody to be able to understand these fundamentals if possible. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a good one. See you guys in the next one.